Hi, I'm Katie Gach, and I'm proud to be presenting the paper Getting Your Facebook Affairs in Order, User Expectations in Post-mortem Profile Management, written with my advisor Jed Brubaker at the University of Colorado Boulder. Our research in this paper asked, how do users form and communicate expectations about what an active post-mortem manager's responsibility would be? This question builds on previous research about why someone would want to manage a loved one's social media data after they have passed away. One of those reasons is based on continuing bonds theory, which states that our relationships do not end with death, but rather that it's good and normal for people to maintain and nurture their relationships with the deceased person over time. We do maintain our relationships with the dead through the data they leave behind, as in this example of a birthday message that I posted to my friend's memorialized profile. But data is still handled and regulated as a possession, as if it's owned by one person. But in practice, it's more like a memorial space or a photo album, and it's also highly evocative of the deceased person's presence. So ownership doesn't necessarily make sense as a model for managing postmortem data. As an alternative to ownership, Jed Brubaker and his colleagues developed the concept of data stewardship. Stewardship contrasts with ownership in that it honors the choices the deceased made during their lifetime while also enabling some responsiveness to the needs of the bereaved. In doing so, a stewardship model for postmortem profile management acknowledges profiles as active communal spaces that have shifting needs. This is the model that Facebook employed in the design of their postmortem data management system, which is known as Legacy Contact, and this is the setting for the research that we've conducted. We view Legacy Contact as a case study for whether postmortem data management designed this way can work well and why. So we interviewed 30 adults in the United States who had either selected a legacy contact for their own profile or who had been selected by someone to be their legacy contacts. We recruited people through a screener survey administered on Facebook, and then we did some snowball sampling from those people to also talk to the person that they had selected. In this way, we ultimately interviewed 9 complete pairs of legacy contacts and account holders, as well as other individuals who had had one experience or the other. Then we conducted a grounded analysis of those interview transcripts through qualitative coding. Here is an overview of the process that our participants had experienced and that we spoke with them about. Account holders on Facebook have the option to choose a legacy contact or a steward who can manage their memorialized profile after they've passed away. Account holders on Facebook can also choose to have their accounts deleted after death, but this particular project did not discuss that option. So here's the brief description of what a legacy contact is and why you might want to choose one. And then the next screen takes you to more specifics about what a legacy contact can actually do. Next, you'll get to choose from among your Facebook friends and be given the option to send them this pre-written message, or you can change it, and then that's it. That's the full process. So again, the research question here was how does this process reveal how users are forming and communicating expectations about what an active postmortem profile manager's responsibilities would be? So the first part of that research question is how do people form expectations about their social media legacies or their memorialized profiles? And the simple answer is that in this process, at least, they don't. They simply found the feature, they chose a person fairly quickly, and then they sent that pre-written message. The second part, on the other side of that experience, was how do people communicate about those expectations? And the results were similar. They don't communicate very much. They maybe received that message from the account holder. They acknowledged it, typically with a sticker or an emoji, something very brief. And that's it. That was the complete process that we spoke with them about. So the simplicity and the quickness of this process indicates what prior research calls the desirable to inherit problem of postmortem data, is that people tend to just not think about their technology or their data as being among the things that their loved ones would want to keep after they die. Here's how one of our participants described her experience. Amy said, I picked my sister because she's my little sister. Obviously, I care about her and I trust her. We didn't talk until after I already chose her because I know her and we know each other. I sent the message and she was like, yeah, I got that. That's cool. And I was like, all right. So we're pretty chill about that. So you see, Amy's description of her experience doesn't have much in terms of technical specifics, but it does have a lot of context about the nature of her relationship with her sister and how well they know each other. So overall, participants felt similar to Amy. They felt confident that they had understood and communicated well about the legacy contact's responsibilities, and they didn't discuss specifics. So overall, we saw that our legacy contact's choices were based on relationships, who knows them, who would act the most like them when they're not around, and there was no technical detail that they discussed. There were actually 2 participants that were an exception to this because they had more imminent reasons to be considering end-of-life planning. So the reason for a lack of discussing specifics and for basing their choices on relationships was simply that as long as the right person would be around to make the decisions, what they actually decide did not matter as much to the people that were planning for their own profiles. But the specifics do matter here for legacy contact on Facebook because the specifics are very limited. Participants expressed a lot of expectations that didn't actually align with the function of the legacy contact system. They thought that the legacy contact would be able to do things that they can't actually do. Here's some examples. People expected that the legacy contact would be able to sign in as the deceased account holder to manage the profile. They expected that they'd be able to read private messages and have access to everything that they had access to. They also expected to be able to curate past posts from the account holder, and they also expected that the legacy contact would be able to delete the profile at a later time. At the time that we conducted these interviews in 2016, none of these things were possible for legacy contacts to do. So the legacy contact cannot sign into the memorialized profile. Rather, they manage it from their own account with features that are uniquely available to them. And private messages from the deceased person in their account remain fully private. However, recent changes to these features have enabled legacy contacts to curate posts on the profile, but only posts that have been made after the person's profile was memorialized, so posts that are coming from other people onto the profile. And they can now request that the profile be deleted at a later date. But at the time, these were incorrect expectations from our participants. So in a companion study to this one, we describe exactly how broken expectations after experiencing a significant loss can actually feel like broken trust between the people in the system. People need to know what to expect when they have the responsibilities of a steward, because there's no opportunity to go back and discuss and change things after a person has died and the change has been made to the profile. So for a setup process that enables post-mortem stewardship on social media, we realize that it's very important for end-of-life setup processes to prompt thoughtfulness and form accurate expectations for account holders and future post-mortem managers alike. In the paper, we suggest things like replacing that open-ended, chat-based approach, saying, hey, I picked you, with a series of structured conversation prompts that would require a more iterative back and forth between the account holder and their chosen steward. So maybe presenting them with some of the specifics that they might actually have to make choices about. But more broadly, our research asks, what might it look like to design high-stakes setup processes like this one with a focus on meaning-based expectations instead of tasks and efficiency? And these are questions I explore further in my dissertation research that I hope to publish soon. Thank you so much for your time listening to the overview of my paper. If you have questions, please direct those questions to my allotted time at the virtual CSCW conference, which is Monday, October 25th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. You may also direct questions to my Twitter at KZGach or to my email address. Thank you so much.